Hello and welcome to this Beyond Exploring session on Gorboduc, which we have started last time. So if you haven't watched the first video and you'd like to know how this play opens, then that's the place to go to, because there's a second video. There's no point going to the second video to find out how the play starts. That'd be a very stupid way of looking at it. This is otherwise known as The Tragedy of Ferrex and Porrex, and it's by Thomas Norton and Thomas Sackville. A pair of Thomases wrote this play. We believe that Thomas Norton wrote the first three acts, so we're still in Thomas Norton territory. And at some point, we're going to sashay across that line into the world of Thomas Sackville. Broadly speaking, Gorboduc has suggested that it would be a great idea if he split his territory in two and give it over to his sons. Presumably, it's a tax dodge. So that he doesn't have to pay duty on that when he dies later on. I don't know whether his accountant suggested it, because otherwise it's a really stupid idea. We're joining the play in Act 2 as the younger brother, I think it's the younger brother, is discussing with his counsellor and one of his mates, a parasite, he is called, about what he should do next. And I have a team of readers who are going to take the cudgels of the play up from the end of Act 2 into probably the early, maybe even the end of Act 4. And the team today are reading the part of, we've decided to pronounce it Tyndar to avoid modern connotations. The King Gorboduc himself, and the chorus at the end of Act 4, if we get there, is...
I am Greg, and I work for the NHS in Stratford-on-Avon.
And reading the part of the chorus at the end of Act 2, Arostus and Nuntius, is...
Good evening, I'm Rob, and I live near Ealing, Cambridgeshire.
And reading the parts of Porrex, the Dumb Show, Eubulus, and Videna. We keep getting the pronunciation of that wrong, and in fact, I don't think I've ever got it right once. Reading those are...
And I'm not sure we're ever going to get this right, but anyway, we'll give it a go. So my name's Sascha Cooper, and I'm a professional actress, voiceover artist, dancer, director, writer, and all-round professional performer from Brighton in the UK.
And reading Philander, chorus at the end of Act 3, and Marcella is...
Hi, my name's Heydn, and I live in Bury St Edmunds in Suffolk, UK.
And I am your host, Robert Crighton, and I am aiming to read absolutely nothing. I'm just here to interject and ruin everybody's day. So we open this session with Act 2, Scene 2, and the characters on stage are Porrex, Tyndar, and Philander.
And is it thus? And doth he so prepare against his brother as his mortal foe? And now, while yet his aged father lives, neither regards he him, nor fears he me. War would he have, and he shall have it so.
I saw myself the great prepared store of horse, of armour, and of weapons there. To bring I to my lord reported tales without the ground of seen and searching truth, low secret quarrels run about his court to bring the name of you, my lord, in hate. Each man almost can now debate the cause and ask a reason of so great a wrong, why he, so noble and so wise a prince, is as unworthy reft his heritage, and why the king, misled by crafty means, divided thus his land from course of right. The wiser sort hold down their graceful heads, each man withdraws from talk and company, of those that have been known to favour you, to hide the mischief of their meaning there. Rumours are spread of your preparing here. The rascal numbers of the unskilful sorts are filled with monstrous tales of yours and you and yours. In secret, I was counselled by my friends to haste me thence, and brought you, as you know, letters from those that both can truly tell, and would not write unless they knew it well.
My lord, yet ere you move unkindly war, send to your brother to demand the cause. Perhaps some traitorous tales have filled his ears with false reports against your noble grace. which once disclosed shall end the growing strife, that else not stayed with wise foresight, in time shall hazard both your kingdoms and your lives. Send to your father eke, he shall appease your kindled minds, and rid you of this fear.
Rid me of fear? I fear him not at all. Nay, will to him, nay to my father send, if danger were for one to tarry there. Think ye, if safety to return again? In mischiefs, such as Porrex now intends, the wonted courteous laws to messengers are not observed, which in just war they use. Shall I so hazard any one of mine? Shall I betray my trusty friend to him, that hath disclosed his treason unto me? Let him entreat that fears. I fear him not. Or shall I to the king my father send? Yea, and send now thou such a mother lives that loves my brother and that hateth me. Shall I give leisure by my fond delays to Porrex to oppose me all unaware? I will not, but I will invade his realm and seek the traitor prince within his court. Mischief for mischief is a due reward. His wretched head shall pay the worthy price of this his treason and his hate to me. Shall I abide, entreat, and send and pay, and hold my yielden throat to traitor's knife, while I with valiant mind and conquering force might rid myself of foes and win a realm? Yet rather when I have the wretch's head than to the king my father will I send. The bootless case may yet appeal his wrath. If not, I will defend me as I may.
And exit Porrex and Tyndar.
Lo here, the end of these two youthful kings, the father's death, the reign of their two realms. O most unhappy state of counsellors, that light on so unhappy laws and times, that neither can their good advice be heard, yet must they bear the blame of ill success. But I will to the king their father haste, ere this mischief come to that likely end, that if the mindful wrath of wreakful gods, since mighty Ilium's fall, not yet appeased with these poor remnants of the Trojan name, have not determined the unmoved fate out of this realm to raise the British line. By good advice, by awe of father's name, by force of wiser lords, this kindred hate may yet be quenched, ere it consumes us all.
And we'll just pause at the end of the scene before we come to the chorus. Sascha and Greg, who were here the other day, I mean, as foretold, this was very much the mirror scene of what we had before. Didn't feel quite as forceful. We didn't have that very big martial speech, did we? I mean, you know, he's not obviously suggesting being nice, but it doesn't have that same sort of hawkish quality.
No, it doesn't really. And I think what's interesting about this scene, though, as opposed to yesterday's one, is the way that Porrex seems to be evolving into this person who's really in a sticky situation. He clearly is evaluating all his options, but he's definitely not afraid of what's to come, for sure. But there's all sorts of weird random options he's got, I think, in the speech that he's got here. But at the end of it, you know, what seems to be common all the way throughout, that even if Philander and any of the other people in the room put it to them, he's still very steadfast, isn't he? Yeah, right. Whatever happens, I'm not going to be afraid of him. I will take it on the chin. Thank you very much. You know, but he's still very much considering all options as well, which is quite interesting.
I wondered if it was a front, though, because, you know, he's got everything against him. He didn't ask to be, have half the kingdom. And his brother's, you know, obviously going to go for him, and his mother's not on his side either. Mother prefers the eldest son, and I'm wondering whether there's a bit of he's protesting over much. Rid me of fear. I fear him not at all. Is that true? Is he? I may be oversaying that. For those who weren't here before, how did you find the scene as a scene in isolation?
Well, that from what Sascha and yourself said, that when he says "rid me of fear," he's actually chosen not to take the argument that Philander's put in. He's immediately jumped on what you think I'm fearful, and he's missed the whole driving force of Porrex of the defensive reaction from Porrex. As a result, he doesn't fear Philander's primary arguments, if you like.
So actually, he's
not taking note of the primary argument. All he's picked up on is fear.
Yeah. You say I'm a coward. How dare
exactly.
you? Actually, no, that's a
me.
really good point. That's much better than my point. I like that.
I like that as well. And it still ties in with the whole thing. I'm not scared of him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we've got Tyndar. I mean, luckily nobody ever says their names. I mean, they're just people. They're just sort of vague artifacts on stage. But I say he's not quite the same hawk as the other parasite in the other scene was. And Philander's. I mean, they've got less time. I mean, it's about half the length. The scene is half the length. Because it's just sort of to demonstrate they don't listen to the wise counsellor Philander. They listen to the youthful scum.
Yeah. The sycophants, darling, the sycophants.
I was trying to do that.
You were doing it very well. I mean, that's sort of the advantage of, sometimes there's a great advantage for not reading ahead, and sometimes there is when you can actually go, right, I know who this person is. And, Philander's bit at the end is just going, we're all doomed. Doomed spelt with an F and a K and a...
I was just about to say, go back to my, I'm not going to repeat the phrase, but it's interesting, there's been at least 2 mentions of Brutus, whatever his name is, in that first section we read last night. We've had him again, and it's just presaging doom. The constant allusions to anything Trojan. He's saying, come on, guys, this is going to go bad.
Yeah, because, of course, our line of kings all come from Troy. Because that's the history that Geoffrey of Monmouth and others have run with. So, Brutus was a nobleman who, leaving Troy, sails round, raids Spain and France, because he's a nobleman, and that's what you do. And then arrives at Britain to slay all the giants. And there's constant referrals to this within this text. But of course, within the world of the play, that's not ancient history. That's only a few generations earlier. So there's a really nice crossover with that. I think we've sort of dug into that enough. Let's have a little look at the chorus. I might dip back to the dumb show at the top of the act afterwards to see if there's a reminder of things, because the chorus does seem to refer to what we saw visually at the beginning of the act. But Rob, I think you're down to do chorus number 2.
When youth, not bridled with guiding stay, is left to random of their own delight, the world whole realms by force sovereign sway. Great is the danger of unmastered might, lest skilled rage throw down with headlong fall their lands, their states, their lives, themselves, and all. When growing pride doth fill the swelling breast, and greedy lust doth raise the climbing mind, oh, hardly may the peril be repressed. Nay, fear of angry gods, ne laws kind, ne country care can fire hearts restrain, when force hath armed envy and disdain. When kings of foreset wills neglect the reed of best advice, and yield to pleasing deeds, tales, that do these fancies noisome humour feed, ne reason nor regard of right avails. Succeeding heaps of plagues shall teach too late to learn the mischiefs of misguiding state. Foul fall the traitor, false that undermines the love of brethren to destroy them both. Woe to the prince that pliant care inclines, and yields his mind to poisonous tale, and floweth with flattering mouth, and woe to wretched land, that wastes itself with civil sword in hand. Lo, thus it is poison in gold to take, and wholesome drink in homely cup forsake.
So, yes, that does explicitly at the very end just highlight what happened in the dumb show at the beginning of the act.
Yeah.
So there's all that business of the cup of gold with poison and the homely cup. It's Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. I mean, that's literally what the dumb show at the beginning of it is.
Sorry.
Right, I'm Indiana Jones. I found a hat.
I didn't think of this yesterday, but it is, isn't it? You drink out of the golden chalice and you die. You drink out of the wooden chalice and you save Sean Connery.
It might not be worth it.
Oh, dear.
I apologise for that random thing. On a more serious note, last night after we stopped recording, Alexandra mentioned the names of the chief advisors were all meaning things, and I have it written down somewhere, that they were effectively things like good counsel, feeble counsel, feeble, weak, or good, and that there was almost a morality tale quality to this, but hidden within the plot. So the named characters are all named from history, but the sort of given a name but you never hear them are almost morality figures there to form a function within the drama rather than necessarily being proper characters. And we've had most of the 7 deadly sins invoked in that speech.
Yeah.
We had pride, we had lust, we had envy, we even had the odd plague thrown in for good measure. So there's much more of that sort of older morality tradition in this than I thought. And so that's a good call on from Alexandra yesterday, and that's sort of following it up. Any additional thoughts about that chorus closing this cheerful act?
No, not really.
Not really.
Yeah.
Excellent. We will move forward. So Act 2 is very much lining up the failures of the sons there. We in a very neat and tidy fashion. So we have another dumb show. I don't know if it explains the dumb show, actually. I think the dumb show is just presented, and I don't know if it explains it afterwards. So let's see where this goes. So the order and signification of the dumb show. Before the third act, I'm echoing in somebody's room. Sascha, I think you're down to do dumb shows.
Yep, that's right. First, the music of flutes began to play, during which came in upon the stage a company of mourners, all clad in black, betokening death and sorrow, to ensue upon the ill-advised misgovernment and dissension of brethren, as befell upon the murder of Porrex by his younger brother. After the mourners had passed thrice about the stage, they departed, and then the music ceased.
No, I'm not going anywhere. Okay, it's not even a flute, but I thought I'd throw it in. So we have this moment of, this is plot. This isn't allegory or anything, or this is just straightforward plot. We're seeing Porrex dead. So he lasted long. And considering that his advisor was the much more hawkish one, has this happened yet? Is this a presaging of the future? Don't think so. It looks like that's just happened between the acts. So not hanging around. The younger sons killed the younger brothers, killed the elder.
It's one of the reasons why this is, from a staging point of view, is quite a boring play to watch, because all the action happens off stage.
You say that, but the music would be beautiful, and
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, we had some of this yesterday. You see, we were discussing what you can do with this.
Yeah.
To work with its structure and what it's trying to do. It's not about the action, man.
Oh, is it not? Oh,
No,
okay.
It's all about the words.
No, it's about the words, man. But also, it's about the visual stuff. You know, these moments. That dumb show is hopefully leads neatly into what this text is about to do now in Act 3. So give it a chance. Give it a chance.
I shall.
Okay.
Go with the flow, Ian. Go with the flow.
Go with the flow. Okay. So technically, we've got a little overdoubling in this scene, but we should be fine. I will pause if anyone's likely to talk to themselves. So in Act 3, Gorboduc and his three counsellors, basically. I'm just going to call them the three counsellors rather than try and say their names. Gorboduc and his three counsellors, feckless, useless, and brilliant. His three counsellors come in.
Oh, cruel fates! Oh, mindful wrath of gods, whose vengeance neither Simois strained in streams, flowing with blood of Trojan princes slain, nor Phrygian fields made rank with corpses dead of Asian kings and lords can yet appease, nay, slaughter of unhappy Priam's race, nor Ilium's fall made level with the soil can yet suffice. But still continued rage pursue our lives, and from the farthest seas doth chase the issues of destroyed Troy. Oh, no man happy, till his end be seen, if any flowing wealth and seeming joy in present years might make a happy wight. Happy was Hecuba, the woefulest wretch that ever lived to make a mirror of, and happy Priam with his noble sons, and happy I till now. Alas, I see, and feel my most unhappy wretchedness. Behold, my lords, read you this letter here. Lo, it contains the ruin of our realm. If timely speed provide not half the help, yet, O ye gods, if ever woeful king might move you, king of kings, wreak it on me and on my sons, not on this guiltless realm. Send down your wasting flames from wrathful skies to reave me and my sons the hateful breath. Read, my lords, this is the matter why I called you now to have your good advice.
And the script has helpfully noted the letter from Dordon, the counsellor of the elder prince, and the counsellor Eubulus readeth the letter.
My sovereign lord, what I am loath to write, but loath I am see, that I am forced by letters now to make you understand. My lord Porrex, your eldest son, misled by traitorous fraud of young untempered wits, assemble forces against your younger son. Ne can my counsel yet withdraw the heat and furious pangs of his inflamed head. Disdain, saith he, of his inheritance arms him to wreak the great pretended wrong with civil sword upon his brother's life. If present help does not restrain this rage, this flame will waste your sons, your land, and you. Your Majesty's faithful and most humble subject, Dordon.
O king, appeal your grief to stay your plaint. Great is the matter and a woeful case, but timely knowledge may bring timely help. Send for them both unto your presence here. The reverence of your honour, age, and state, your grave advice, the awe of father's name, shall quickly knit again this broken piece. And if in either of my lords, your sons, be such untamed and unyielding pride as will not bend unto your noble hest, if Porrex, the elder son, can bear no peace, or Porrex, not content, aspire to more than you him gave above his native right, join with the juster side. So shall you force them to agree and hold the land in stay.
What meaneth this? Lo, yonder comes his haste, Philander from my lord your younger son.
And enter Philander.
God send joyful news.
The mighty Jove preserve your majesty, O noble king.
Philander, welcome, but how doth my son?
Your son, sir, lives, and healthy I him left. But yet, O king, this want of lustful health could not be half so griefful to your grace as these most wretched tidings that I bring.
Oh heavens, yet more no end of woes to me.
Tyndar, O king, came lately from the court of Porrex to my lord your younger son, and made report of great prepared store of war, and says that it is wholly meant against Porrex, for high disdain that he lives now a king and equal in degree with him. They claim it to succeed the whole, and by due title of descending right. Porrex is now so set on flame in fire, partly with kindled rage of pure wrath, partly with hope to gain a realm thereby, that he in haste prepareth to invade his brother's land, and with unkind war threatens the murder of your elder son. Ne could I him persuade that first he should send to his brother to demand the cause, nor yet to you to stay his hateful strife. Wherefore, sith there no more I can be heard, I come myself now to inform your grace, and to beseech you, as you love the life and safety of your children and your realm, now to employ your wisdom and your force, to stay this mischief ere it be too late.
Are they in arms? Would he not send for me? Is this the honour of a father's name? In vain we travail to assuage their minds, as if their hearts, whom neither brother's love, nor father's awe, nor kingdom's care can move, our counsels could withdraw from raging hate. Jove slay them both and end the cursed line. For though perhaps fear of such mighty forces I, my lords, joined with your noble aids, may yet raise, shall repent their present heat, the secret grudge and malice will remain. The fire, not quenched, but kept in close restraint, fed still within, breaks forth with double flame. Their death and mine must appease the angry gods.
Yield not, O king, so much to weak despair. Your sons yet live, and long I trust they shall. If fates had taken you from earthly life before beginning of the civil strife, perhaps your sons in their unmastered youth, loose from your regard of any living wight, would run on headlong with unbridled grace to their own death and ruin of this realm. But sith the gods that have the care of kings, of things and times dispose the order so, that in your life this kindled flame breaks forth, while yet your life, your wisdom, your power may stay the growing mischief, and repress the fiery blaze of their enkindled hate. It seems, and so ye ought to deem thereof, that loving Jove have tempered so the time of this debate to happen in your days, that you yet living may the same appease, and add it to the glory of your later age, and they your sons may learn to live in peace. Beware, O king, the greatest harm of all, lest by your wilful plaints, your hastened death, you larger room unto their growing rage. Preserve your life, the only hope of state. And if your highness herein list to use wisdom or force, counsel or knightly aid, lo, we, our persons, powers, and lives are yours. Use us till death, O king, we are your own.
Though hear the peril that was erst foreseen, when you, O king, did first divide your land, and yield your present reign unto your sons. But now, O noble prince, now is no time to wail and plain, and waste your woeful life. Now is the time for present good advice. Sorrow doth dark the judgment of the wit, the heart unbroken, and the courage free from feeble faintness of bootless despair, doth either rise to safety, or renown by noble valour of an unvanquished mind, or yet doth perish in more happy sort. Your grace may send to either of your sons someone both wise and noble personage, which with good counsel and with weighty name of father shall present before their eyes your hest, your life, your safety, and their own the present mischief of their deadly strife. And in the while, assemble you the force which your commandment and the speedy haste of all my lords here present can prepare. The terror of your mighty power shall stay the rage of both, or yet of one least.
And enter the messenger.
O king, the greatest grief that ever prince did hear, that ever woeful messenger did tell, that ever wretched land hath seen before I bring to you. Porrex, your younger son, with sudden force invaded hath the land that you to Ferrex did allot to rule. And with his own most bloody hand, he hath his brother slain, and doth possess his realm.
O heaven, send down the flames of your revenge. Destroy, I say, with flash of wreakful fire, the traitor son, and then the wretched sire. But let us go, that yet perhaps I may die with revenge, appease the hateful gods.
And we'll just pause there before we go to the chorus. That's an effective little scene, isn't it? Because we've already been set up that one of the sons is dead. We were told that quite explicitly in the so we're sitting there. They're all making plans. They're all making all these plans. What should you do? Protect yourself, king. You know, whatever you do with your children, make sure your power base is secure. They're all giving good advice. Actually, there's not really any bad advice going on. There's a real sense of urgency. Try and persuade Gorboduc, who's not in a great place. Keeps talking about Troy. Troy didn't go well, depending on which side you're talking about.
I hadn't read that speech before I said what I said about the Troy stuff, and then I suddenly was reading it. Oh dear!
Yeah, it's all Troy. And then of course the messenger comes in and says, "Oh yeah, worst case scenario, pretty much there." Hello.
But I was expecting the news to come earlier.
Yeah.
Each time I kind of thought it's going to be the news, and I thought, no, it's not. It's another bit of what should we do?
Yeah, I quite like that. I think it keeps you sort of waiting. And again, thinking, and this is very much the emphasis I want with this these sessions on Gorboduc is, you know, thinking about how we would use this to create a show. And I'm thinking we've got the two sons having that argument in Act 2. And then that, you know, those scenes might elide into each other, and then they have a fight. And you know, there's all that leading into, and that goes into the funeral, and that goes into this, and that there's potentially a lot more action and movement to this piece, without actually rewriting anything, or you know, maybe moving some stuff about. But actually, the potential is all here. There's an urgency to all of that. You did Gorboduc's speech. You know, there's a great pace to that. Even the letter writing, but you know, the letter could actually be performed, you know, spotlight, bing. The person who's writing the letter does the speech. It's got the potential to be so much more dynamic than on the page it appears, and probably originally was staged. I imagine it was very static. But I don't care how it was originally staged. I want to know how we do it.
It's using compression of time, isn't it, to heighten the drama of the play.
It's picking its moments.
Everything that takes stage off, you know, what we've gone through there in a couple of minutes is that Philander arrived a couple of minutes ago to tell the king that the two boys had raised armies, and now a couple of minutes later, they've already fought the war.
Yeah. War's coming. Oh.
The war's taken place off stage, and within minutes on stage, gosh, we're there.
Yeah, and it's an incredibly short scene as well. It's another really short. I mean, this whole act is not very long, and the play itself is not very long. You know, I think it gets away with having long speeches because the play itself is actually quite brief, and you get plenty of breaks for music and physical theatre.
Also, I like the fact it plays long enough that especially from that previous dumb show where it appeared that Gorboduc had been, I think it was Gorboduc, wasn't it, that was killed theoretically with the poisoned gold cup. That you can almost get that sense that maybe the audience are going, "Oh, wait a minute, that dumb show isn't true again," and then suddenly.
Yeah.
As long as they've remembered who's who.
Yeah.
They go, oh, yes.
Because that second dumb show is still a problem because it's not literal, but it's also not clear enough what it's doing until the end of the act when they explain it, which is sort of a bit late. Whereas this one is direct plot. It's just, this is a thing that happened somewhere else. that hopefully gives you a sense of irony throughout the whole scene. You know, you've got to make it nice and clear. I like that use of irony. I think it's really nice. And I like the fact the messenger doesn't go on forever. I mean, the messenger's speech is mercifully brief. And anyone who's, you know,
doesn't it?
yeah, any Greek chorus, so, you know, any Greek messenger.
Yeah.
This is my moment of fame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll make it last.
No, he knows his place.
Yes.
But then you've got Gorboduc's final lines here. Oh, heaven, send down the, you know, revenge, destroy, die with revenge. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the thing, is he's sort of in this weird position. You know, to avenge his son, he's got to kill his other son, and then who's going to rule after he's dead? I mean, he's got no options at all, actually. It's a really awful.
Options, yeah. Well, he's running out.
Yeah.
One, before we go into the chorus,
Yeah.
your knowledge will be greater than mine on this. When I read this through today, I noticed the choruses, the three of them, apart from this one, are 6-line stanzas, A, B, A, B, C, C. And this one is 4. And then with a rhyming couplet at the end. Is there any technical reason that you know of for that? Or is it
whim?
Just whim.
Just whim.
Yeah.
I mean,
because it just seemed so out of kilter with the other choruses.
Are we about to go into the act that was written by somebody else?
yes.
Yeah, we are. But this is still written by Norton, apparently.
Well, in theory, but you know, maybe there is maybe he did dashed off the final.
Maybe he done that as well. I don't know. Yeah, I was just wondering if there was anything, you know, as I said, anything technical about it. I don't know.
No, I know. I mean, we've done a few choruses in plays. Tragedy of Antony, the choruses are all completely irregular. They're different every time. I think Tragedy of Mariam, they're mostly the same, but there's some variations.
Okay.
So I don't think there's a hard and fast rule. I think just that's how it came out.
Yeah, fair enough.
But who knows? Maybe someone out there can tell us a better answer. Maybe Act 3s always end this way.
Quite possibly. Yeah.
Okay, let's hear the chorus before we move into the next act, which is much longer.
Yes.
The lust of...
Who's doing Act 3?
it's me. It's all right. I got confused. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay.
All at once or one at a time?
Yes.
The lust of King...
You're doing it here, what?
What?
He is, yes. He's down to do this one.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You did Act 2.
Can you never go before I start?
Have a fag, mate.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. McCabe, please do the chorus.
Okay. The lust of kingdoms knows no sacred faith, no rule of reason, no regard of right, no kindly love, no fear of heaven's wrath, but with contempt of God's and man's despite. Through bloody slaughter doth prepare the way to fatal sceptre and accursed reign. The son so loathes the father's lingering days, ne dreads his hand in brother's blood to stain. O wretched prince, ne dost thou yet record the yet fresh murders done within the lands of thy forefathers, when the cruel sword bereft Morgan his life with cousin's hands. Thus fatal plagues pursue the guilty race, whose murderous hand, imbrued with guiltless blood, asks vengeance still before the heavens' face, with endless mischiefs on the cursed brood. The wicked child this brings to woeful sire, the mournful plight to waft his weary life. Thus do the cruel flames of civil fire destroy the parted reign with hateful strife. And hence doth spring the well from which doth flow the dead black streams of mourning's plaints and woe.
Thus ends the cheerful Act 3. There's no relenting of the sense of doom, is there? You just need a timpani in the background just going boom, 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 death.
Yeah.
I was thinking the same thing, actually. It's weird, that boom, boom, yeah.
And I think, again, we've got the invitation to be using a lot of music because of the dumb show and what happens there. And, you know, who is the chorus? Is it a single voice? Is it many voices? Is it just whoever's on stage takes on that role. Is it a single figure? You've got lots and lots of options there.
Who is the bereft Morgan?
I'm just looking that up, literally here.
Morgan, I can tell you who that is.
Can you?
Yeah, it's a story again from the guy you quoted earlier.
Oh, Geoffrey of Monmouth, because
Morgan and Sedegar, they plotted to take the kingdom of Britain off of their aunt, and he was killed by his cousin. So it's just a reference back.
We are going back to as detailed in the one of the other plays that we will at some point get around to doing, King Lear. It's one of that's the son of Lear's daughter Goneril. So
I was going to say, is that Goneril?
The whole confusing narrative of what happens with Lear and his daughters and Cordelia's disastrous reign, because that's the bit you never get to in certain versions. You know, in the original, she does become queen, and then the kingdom falls apart afterwards. Actually, King Lear has a pretty torrid time of it, but actually, it's you know, the daughter does reign in the end after all that. So that's the story when we get around to doing that play, which has Cordelia, and you know, it has that happy ending without foreshadowing the doom to come.
I like the happy ending.
I do.
Yeah,
I like the happy ending.
we all do.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the one in this.
I was going to say, you're in the wrong place if you want a happy ending.
Oh, definitely.
Wrong. Anyway,
We're going to ad-lib the last act.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so we are going into another dumb show. So the music plays, and I think is it still Sascha? I've got Sascha down for all the dumb shows, I think.
Yep, that's right.
Act 4.
Okay. First, the music of hautboys begins to... I'll start that again, I'm sorry. First, the music of hautboys began to play, during which there came forth from under the stage, as though out of hell, 3 fairies, or furies, I should say, Alecto, Megara, and Sisyphone, and in black garments sprinkled with blood and flames, their bodies girt with snakes, their heads spread with serpents instead of hair, the one bearing in her hand a snake, the other a whip, and the third a burning firebrand, each driving before them a king and a queen, which, moved by furies, unnaturally had slain their own children. The names of kings and queens were these: Tantalus, Medea Athamas, Ino, Cambyses, Althea. After that, the furies and these had passed about the stage thrice. They departed, and then the music ceased. Hereby was signified the unnatural murders to follow, that is to say, Porrex slain by his own mother, and King Gorboduc and Queen Videna killed by their own subjects.
So we get a bit of interpretive dance by the looks of it here. There's you know, images there. Do we think an audience is going to get precisely what that image? Because obviously it says this is what it means, this is what it signifies. Do we think there's enough information there, or is it just to give the impression of doom and destruction and death?
Would they understand who the 3 furies were?
I think they probably might just they might get that they're furies. The original audience might have done. I don't think today we would stand a hope.
No, I was talking about the original.
No, definitely not.
But
I don't think today, no.
But this, you know, this is at the Inns of Court. It's you know, they are an educated audience. So and you know, maybe there's a special program that, you know, outlined exactly what this, because this text is written very much like the program note, isn't it? You know, those sitting in the royal box are sitting there, you know, eating their chocolates and looking at the souvenir program, and that's what this is here. So, you know, clad in black garments, sprinkled with blood and flames, their bodies girt with snakes, and I think the snakes will give you the furies.
Yeah.
that'll give you the idea. But yeah, driving before them a king and a queen, etc. I don't think you'll quite get the murder their own, children kind of thing. I don't think they're going to get
No.
that presaged, but maybe we could do something that makes it much clearer. I like the
was
idea.
gonna say,
I
yeah.
don't think Tantalus, Medea, Athamas, and I don't think even a modern audience would have any idea who they are.
They might know Medea, but I don't think they'd know any of the others. They might know Tantalus. But again, you're expecting what percentage of your audience is going to know Medea is probably quite low these days.
If they could get a couple of them, then they'd get the idea that it's all mythological characters that committed crimes against their own families. But
yeah,
as
that's the thing. But yeah, so we got the idea of what this gives, even if we might change that. I think that there's a nice visceralness to that, which I quite like. Okay, so we have opening of Act 4. We have Mother gets a solo speech. So off you go.
Why should I live and linger forth my time in longer life to double my distress? Oh me, most woeful wight, whom no mishap long ere this day could have bereaved hence! Mought not these hands by fortune or by fate have pierced this breast and life with iron reft? Or in this palace here, where I so long have spent my days, could not that happy hour once have happed in which these Hugi framed with death by fall might have oppressed me? Or should not this most hard and cruel soil, so oft where I have pressed my wretched steps, sometime have ruth of mine accursed life to rend in twain and swallow me therein? So had my bones possessed now in peace their happy grave within the closed ground, and greedy worms had gnawed this pined heart without my feeling pain. So should not now this living breast remain the ruthful tomb wherein my heart yielded to death is graved, nor dreary thoughts with pangs of pining grief my doleful mind had not afflicted thus. O my beloved son, O my sweet child, my dear Porrex, my joy, my life's delight, murdered with cruel death! O hateful wretch! O heinous traitor both to heaven and earth! Thou Porrex! Thou this damned deed hast wrought, thou Porrex! Thou shalt dearly abide the same, traitor to king and kind, to sire and me. To thine own flesh, and traitor to thyself, the gods on thee in hell shall wreak their wrath, and here in earth this hand shall take revenge on thee, Porrex! Thou false and caitiff, rightive after blood, so eager were thy first and murderous mind had so possessed thee. If such hard heart of rock and stony flint lived in thy breast, that nothing else could like thy cruel tyrants thought but death and blood, wild savage beasts mought not your slaughter serve to feed thy greedy will, and in the midst of their entrails to stain thy deadly hands with blood deserved, and drink thereof of thy fill? Or if naught else but death and blood of man mought please thy lust, could none in Britain land whose heart be torn out of his loving breast with thine own hand? Or work what death thou wouldst suffice to make a sacrifice please that deadly mind and murderous thought in thee? But he who in the self-same room was wrapped where thou in dismal hour received life, or if needs this hand must slaughter make, moughtest thou not have reached a mortal wound, and with thy sword have pierced this cursed wound? That thee, accursed Porrex, brought to light and given me a just reward therefore. So, Porrex, yet sweet life might have enjoyed, and to his aged father comfort brought, with some young son in whom they might live. But whereunto waste I this rueful speech to thee that has thy brother's blood thus shed? Shall I still think that from this wound thou sprung, that I thee bear or take thee for my son? No, traitor! No, I thee refuse for mine. Murderer, I thee renounce. Thou art not mine. Never, O wretch, this womb conceived thee, nor never bode I painful throes for thee. Changeling to me thou art, and not my child, nor to no wight that spark of pity knew. Ruthless, unkind, monster of nature's work. Thou never sucked the milk of woman's breast, but from thy birth the cruel tiger's teats have nursed. Nor yet of flesh and blood have formed is thy heart, but of hard iron wrought, and wild and deserted woods bred thee to life. But canst thou hope to scrape my just revenge? Or that these hands will not be wroke on thee? Doest thou not know that Ferrex's mother lives, that loved him more dearly than herself? And doth she live, and is not vengeance on thee?
And thus the speech ends. And it doesn't say she exits, actually, in the script I'm looking at. I don't know if it says so in your script.
No.
So, interesting question mark. Is she still on stage while everybody else speaks? Because she doesn't say anything else. I'm just wondering aloud. Some things. What a fantastic speech that was. Well done, Sascha. That was really nice.
Oh, thank you.
It's a real tour de force. It works really well. And of course, what the hell do? You want to avenge them, but it's your own. But which do you do? I'm wondering if the dumb show almost needs to bleed into this, that you've got some sort of spirit of vengeance standing over you going, with something, at times, and whether what happens at the end of this into what happens next as well, though I don't want to go into that too far.
I tell you what I really love about that speech, and it's the fact that she is so, how can I put it? She's strong, but yet she knows what she's about to do may, in the eyes of God, be wrong, especially from some of the phrases that she uses, with the whole contrast. But it flows so well that the emotional journey, even just by reading that, and I have to admit, I only read that speech once before I came on tonight, but even from that once, I just loved the way it flowed, and the journey is so clear as to what she's having to put up with, what she knows deep down needs to happen, but at the same time she's in guilt for even thinking this. It's like a well-constructed character who won't be mentioned in a certain text, but it takes everything up to another level, shall we say.
Well, it's also, is she dealing with her own guilt? Because, to some degree, she's a bit responsible for this.
That's why I say there is guilt in there, I think.
She egged him on a bit, shall we say. You played favourites. This is what happens.
Right.
And also towards the end, where she's distancing herself from her son, the changeling, never bore thee, etc., etc. Just to put herself in the, maybe to, I don't know, trick herself subconsciously or even consciously.
Yes.
When she calls, changeling to me art thou child.
Yeah. Yes, disassociating it.
Anyway.
Yeah. It's not a real person that I'm going to kill. It's something other.
Yeah. It's really, it's a very well written piece there. Really good. And it was
Very
really well read,
enjoyable to
darling.
do.
It was.
Oh, really? Thank you.
Yeah, it was. It was really well read.
So, well, we've got to say that the first bit, allegedly by Thomas Sackville, has gone down a storm so
Yes.
far. Let's see if. And I didn't feel, however, it was. I didn't immediately go, "Oh, that's a very different writing style." They seem to be writing similar stuff, but that is a corker, isn't it?
I think that's going in the monologue file. Put it that way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
oh, yeah.
That was a stunning one.
Yeah. What, you're not going to keep? So you're not thinking that some of Tyndar's stuff's quite good.
Yeah, just on that poem, I swiped left. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's lower the tone again.
Actually, tell you what. Actually, the problem with his name is actually it's too short. I think it should be something like Tyndarus.
Yeah.
I agree.
I think you just need to put an us on the end, and that problem disappears. And I think that's the solution for.
And it would have fitted the Trojan War much better.
Yeah, it just sounds like a name that, and I think there probably is one somewhere.
There is.
So that works. That works. Okay, so we don't know whether she exits or not, whether she's hanging in the background. But however, a whole host of people come on, and because of doubling reasons, Sascha is now in this scene as Eubulus.
And Porrex, it seems.
Oh, okay. Shall I be one of the people there? Because you're a bit excessively doubled there, aren't you? Shall I be the counsellor? Shall I be the counsellor? You can be your own son. That makes more sense, doesn't it?
Okay. God, from mother to playing this. Oh my God! Here we go.
You can be your own son. We're not in Norfolk, mate.
Oh!
We're allowed to say this. We live in Suffolk. It's the straightforward border principle. If you live next door, you're allowed to insult your neighbours because they will insult you back. It's fine. It's a law of comedy. No, you played Porrex earlier, so it sort of makes sense.
I did, yeah.
Okay, that's me just cocking up. I'll be Eubulus. There we are. Okay. Anyway, the scene opens with Gorboduc, so let's go from there.
We marvel much whereto this lingering stay falls out so long. Porrex unto our court by orders of our letters is returned, and Eubulus received from us behest at his arrival here to give him charge before our presence straight to make repair, and yet we have no word whereof he stays.
Know where he comes, and Eubulus with him.
According to your highness hest to me, here have I Porrex brought, even in such sort as from his wearied horse he did alight, for that your grace did will such haste therein.
We like and praise this speedy will in you to work the thing that to your charge we gave. Porrex, if we so far should swerve from kind and from those bounds which law of nature sets, as thou hast done by vile and wretched deed in cruel murder of thy brother's life, our present hand could stay no longer time, but straight should bathe this blade in blood of thee, as just revenge of thy detested crime. No, we should not offend the laws of kind, if now this sword of ours did slay thee here. For thou hast murdered him, whose highness death even nature's force doth move us to revenge by blood again. But justice forceth us to measure death for death. Thy due desert, yet sithens thou art our child, and sith as yet in this hard case what word thou canst allege for thy defence. By us have not been heard, we are content to say our will for that, which justice bids us presently to work, and give thee leave to use thy speech at full, if aught thou have to lay for thine excuse.
Neither, O king, I can or will deny, but that this hand from Ferrex's life have reft, which fact how much my doleful heart doth wail, oh would it might as full appear to sight, as inward grief doth pour it forth to me. So yet, perhaps, if ever ruthful heart melting in tears within a manly breast, through deep repentance of his bloody fact, if ever grief, if ever woeful man might move regret with sorrow of his fault, I think the torment of my mournful case, known to your grace, as I do feel the same, would force even wrath herself to pity me. But as the water troubled with the mud shows not the face which else the eye should see, even so your ireful mind with stirred thought cannot so perfectly discern my cause. But this unhap, amongst so many heaps, I must content me with, most wretched man, that to myself I must reserve my woe in pining thoughts of mine accursed fact, since I may not show here my smallest grief, such as it is, and as my breast endures, which I esteem the great misery of all mishaps that fortune now can send. Not that I rest in hope with plaints and tears should purchase life, for the gods I clep for true record of this faithful speech. Never this heart shall have the thoughtful dread to die the death that by your grace's doom, by just desert, shall be pronounced to me. Nor never shall this tongue once spend this speech pardon to crave, or seek by suit to live. I mean not this as though I were not touched with care of dreadful death, or that I held life in contempt, but that I know, the mind stoops to no dread, although the flesh be frail. And for my guilt, I yield the same, so great, as in myself I find a fear so sue for granted life.
In vain, O wretch, thou showest a woeful heart. Felix now lies in the grave, slain by thy hand.
Yet this, O father, hear, and then I end.
I'm just
Your
going to pause you
Majesty.
there. I'm just going to pause you there. So, you've been brought in. Gorboduc suddenly picked up the curse of alliteration. As suddenly he's doing quite a lot of it. And you make your first bit of the case. Porrex is going, I feel really bad about it all. Do you really say anything more than that?
I don't know. I think just by some of the phrases that he uses, especially when he says about the woeful heart, and and even where was it that he said, "Oh yes," even at the end, even when he says, "And so I yield my life, my death to judgment of your grace." I'm not sure whether it's genuine, actually.
Well, that's a good question. The journey we're going to take, because you haven't really made an argument apart from I'm really sorry and sad and won't
Yeah.
happen again.
He admits his guilt, doesn't he? He admits the guilt, offers no excuse, and then just says, Dad, do what you will.
And
Father judge it,
and Daddy's obviously not in a good mood about that because he just goes in and then it's like, no, wait, there's more.
Yeah.
And we're about to hear the more. And he's got to turn his father round somehow. I mean, how are you going to do it? You've apologized. That didn't cut it. So Porrex, what are you going to do?
Yet this, O father, hear, and then I end. Your Majesty well knows that when my brother Ferrex and myself, by your own hest, were joined in governance of this your Grace's realm of Britain land, I never sought nor travailed for the same, nor by myself, nor by no friend I wrought. But from your Highness's will alone it sprung, of how your most gracious goodness bent to me. But how my brother's heart even then repined with swollen disdain against mine equal rule, seeing that realm, by which descent should grow wholly to him, allotted half to me. Even in your Highness's court he now remains. And with my brother then in nearest place, who can record what proof thereof was showed, and how my brother's envious heart appeared? Yet I that judged it my part to seek his favour and goodwill, and loath to make your highness know the thing which should have brought grief to your grace, and your offence to him, hoping my earnest suit should soon have won a loving heart within a brother's breast. Wrought in that sort for a pledge of love and faithful heart, he gave to me his hand. This made me think that he had banished quite all rancour from his thought, and bare to me such hearty love as I did owe to him. But after once we left your grace's court, and from your highness's presence lived apart, this equal rule still did grudge him so, that now those envious sparks, which erst lay raked in living cinders of dissembling breast, kindled so far within his heart's disdain, that longer could he not refrain from proof of secret practice to deprive me life by poisoned force, and had bereft me, so if mine own servant hired to this fact, and moved by truth with hate to work the same, in time had not betrayed it unto me. When thus I saw the knot of love unknit, all honest league and faithful promise broke the law of kind, and truth thus rent in twain, his heart on mischief set, and in his breast black treason hid them. Then did I despair that ever time could win him friend to me. Then saw I how he smiled with slaying knife wrapped under cloak. Then saw I deep deceit lurk in his face, and death prepared for me. Even nature moved me then to hold my life more dear to me than his, and bade this hand, since by his life my death must needs ensue, and by my death my life to be preserved, to shed his blood and seek my safety so, and wisdom willed me without protract in speedy wise to put the same in ure. Thus have I told the cause that moved me to work my brother's death, and so I yield my life, my death to judgment of your grace.
So, self-defense, Gov.
Yeah.
Self-defense.
Yeah.
Of course it was.
Yeah, it wasn't my fault. I didn't want to do it. He was determined to kill me. He was, Governor.
Yeah.
Totally.
That line that says, even nature moves me then to hold my life. It's natural for me. It's more important to preserve my life than it was, at the expense of his.
And
I had no choice.
Yeah. And as well, in that speech, he, at the beginning especially, he puts it all on his father.
Yeah, I noticed that as well.
It's your fault, Daddy.
Yeah,
it's your fault, Daddy.
By your own fault, Hest were joined in government. It wasn't my idea. Just saying. Not a good tactic, frankly. On the judge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as I think you mentioned before, Robert, we never got, and I think you, Sascha, we don't know how genuine he is in feeling any guilt for this or contrition at all. And
he's got none at all.
And he's taking a gamble here that his father, the king's, not going to execute him because he's the only son left.
Yeah,
that's he's trying the sympathy tact. Now he's trying the self-defense tact.
Yeah.
Right, what have we got left after this one?
Well, nothing.
He's going to go down fighting, isn't he?
We're going straight into summary judgment, I'm afraid.
Yes, guilty, my lord, and witness to prove it.
Greg, did you...
Yeah, it was just a sudden thought. It was this thing of threes again, because we've had the three fates, the three councillors, and I was about to say, if it wasn't for the fact we were about to go into Gorboduc sort of moment, the three defences almost. It was all right. It was just a sudden sort of thinking.
Well, we've got threes and twos as well, So it's we do have sort of repetitions. I think you're right there, and progressions. But yeah, we go straight to summary judgment. And Porrex is going to exit halfway through the speech. I don't know actually if you've got the stage direction noted halfway through, but after a cursed child, I've got a notation here. That's where Porrex exits. So we'll just take that as read. So Porrex is going to exit halfway through this speech. I'll let you do the speech, however, in your own way. Gorboduc, please sum up.
Cruel wight, should any cause prevail to make thee stain thy hands with brother's blood, but what of thee we will resolve to do shall yet remain unknown. Thou, in the mean, shalt from our royal presence banished be, until our princely pleasure further shall to thee be showed. Depart therefore our sight, accursed child.
Actually, I'm going to pause there. So his decision is nothing.
Banishment, yeah.
Actually.
Just go away.
Quite.
Go to your
yeah.
room and think about what you have done.
Sit on the
Done.
naughty step. Yeah.
And, it's typical Gorboduc, isn't he? He doesn't make a decision, or he's made a decision, and it's a rubbish one.
I do want to kick myself at this point for being stupid. It's just like, come on.
Yeah, thanks, Daddy. You've let me off.
I'll go do something else now. I'll go murder somebody else or whatever.
Well, I think it's going to go worse for him than that. I think, to be fair, we saw the dumb show earlier, so we know it's not going to go well for Porrex. Basically, Porrex, you don't want to walk off stage because there be dangers.
Things not to do in a horror.
Yeah, but he still does anyway.
Yeah. And going back to the horror film that you brought up yesterday, we know it's going to happen. We know he's going to die any minute now, and we're just waiting for his death to come. We know who the murderer is going to be. It's all set up.
Yeah.
Okay, continue Gorboduc, I think.
What cruel destiny, what forward fate have sorted us this chance, that even in those where we should comfort find, where our delight now in aged days should rest and be, even there our only grief and deepest sorrows to abridge our life, most pining cares and deadly thoughts to grow.
Your grace should now, in these grave years of yours, have found ere this the price of mortal joys. How short they be, how fading here in earth, how full of change, how brittle our estate, of nothing sure, save only of the death to whom both man and all the world doth owe their end at last. Neither shall nature's power in others sought against our heart prevail. Then, as the naked hand that stroke assays the armed breast, where force doth light in vain.
Many can yield right grave and sage advice of patient spirit to others wrapped in woe, and can in speech both rule and conquer kind, who if by proof they might feel nature's force, would show themselves men as they are indeed, which now would needs be gods. But what doth mean the sorry cheer of her? But what doth mean the sorry cheer of her that here doth come?
I'm just going to pause here again because I like Arostus's, everything's gone really badly.
Yes, we're doomed.
Yeah, we're all going. Everybody dies.
Yes.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
But if they all die, we won't have to pay their wages.
Yeah, don't worry. When you die, you'll get your reward in heaven because, frankly, there's nothing good on earth. And Gorboduc seems to respond to that of going, anyone can say that. It's quite dismissive.
Again. Yeah.
Men can yield right grave and sage advice.
Because of my interesting doubling, of course, we now have Marcella, played by Mr. McCabe. Just simply because we only have one woman in the team, and I think we should do some sort of traditional practices of within this little group. So, Mr. McCabe
changed.
No, I think you could just as you are.
Okay.
Just turn your hat around the other way.
So, having seen from a distance the sorry cheer of her that here doth come, Marcella does indeed arrive.
Oh, where is Ruth? Oh, where is pity now? Whither is gentle heart and mercy fled? Are they exiled out of our stony breasts, never to make return? Is all the world drowned in blood and sunk in cruelty? If not in woman, mercy may be found, if not, alas, within the mother's breast, to her own child, to her own flesh and blood. If ruth be banished thence, if pity there may have no place, if there no gentle heart do live and dwell, where should we seek it then?
Madam, alas, what means your woeful tale?
O silly woman I, why to this hour have kind and fortune thus deferred my breath, that I should live to see this doleful day? Will every right believe that such hard heart could rest within the cruel mother's breast, with her own hand to slay her only son? But out, alas, these eyes beheld the same. They saw the dreary sight, and are become most ruthful records of the bloody fact. Porrex, alas, is by his mother slain, and with her hand a woeful thing to tell, while slumbering on his careful bed he rests, his heart stabbed in with knife, is reft of life.
O Eubulus, O draw this sword of ours, and pierce this heart with speed. O hateful light, O loathsome life, O sweet and welcome death, dear Eubulus, work this we thee beseech.
Oh, do you want me to go
patient,
back to...
patient, your grace. Perhaps he liveth yet, with wound received, but not of certain death.
O let us then repair unto this place, and see if Porrex live or thus be slain.
And exit Gorboduc and Eubulus. So, just to pause there, I'm hopeful there. It might just be a flesh wound.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
With a heart.
Right.
Just a heart wound.
Yeah. So again,
Little
Oh.
scratch.
we've got this servant of the Queen coming in, delivering the terrible news. But she hasn't finished yet. There's some more detail to come. And I'm assuming that, I don't know what the cast size would have been originally. I genuinely don't know, but I'm assuming that potentially the female parts would all have been doubled by the same person. So the reason why you probably exited earlier is simply you could put on a slightly different costume to be both female parts. I don't know of that. I mean, again, I'm sort of thinking whether there's a physical performance of elements of this as behind the gauze or something. Whether
Could well
we
be.
elaborate on this. Anyway, Marcella is left with Arostus, who I think provides punctuation to this speech of despair.
Alas, he liveth not. It is too true that with these eyes of him a peerless prince, son to a king, and in the flower of youth, even with a twink, a senseless stock I saw.
Oh, damn the deed.
But hear this ruthful end. The noble prince, pierced with the sudden wound, out of his wretched slumber hastily start, whose strength now failing straight he overthrew, when in the fall his eyes, even now unclosed, beheld the queen, and cried to her for help. We then, alas, the ladies which that time did there attend, seeing the heinous deed, and hearing him oft call the wretched name of mother, and to cry to her for aid, whose direful hand gave him the mortal wound. Pitying, alas, for naught else could we do, his ruthful end run to the woeful bed, despoiled straight his breast, and all we might wiped in vain with napkins next at hand the sudden streams of blood that flushed fast out of the gaping wound. Oh, what a look! Oh, what a ruthful, steadfast eye, methought, he fixed upon my face, which to my death will never part from me. When with a braid, a deep felt sigh he gave, and therewithal, clasping his hands to heaven, he cast his sight. And straight pale death pressing within his face, the flying ghost his mortal corpse forsook.
Never did age bring so vile a fate.
Oh, hard and cruel hap, that thus aside unto so worthy a wight, so wretched end. But most hard, cruel heart, that could consent to lend the hateful destinies that hand, by which, alas, so heinous crime was wrought. O queen of adamant, O marble breast, if not the favour of his comely face, if not his princely cheer and countenance, his valiant active arms, his manly breast, if not his fair and seemly personage, his noble limbs in such proportion cast, as would have wrapped a silly woman's thought, if this might not have moved the bloody heart, and that most cruel hand the wretched weapon even to let fall, and kissed him in the face, with tears for ruth to wreathe such one by death, should nature yet consent to slay her son? O mother, thou to murder thus thy child! Even Jove with justice must with lightning flames from heaven send down some strange revenge on thee. Ah, noble prince, how oft have I beheld thee mounted on thy fierce and trampling steed, shining in armour bright before the tilt, and with thy mistress' sleeve tied on thy helm, and charge thy staff to please thy lady's eye, that bowed the head, pierced of thy friendly foe. How oft in arms on horse to bend the mace, how oft on foot to break the sword, which never now these eyes may see again.
Madam, alas, in vain these plaints are shed. Rather with me depart, and help to assuage the thoughtful griefs that in the aged king must needs by nature grow by death of this his only son, whom he did hold so dear.
What wight is that which saw that I did see, and could refrain to wail with plaint and tears? Not I, alas, that heart is not in me. But let us go, for I am grieved anew to call to mind the wretched father's woe.
And she exits. So cheerful, happy
It
stuff.
was, yeah.
I mean, Gorboduc himself. I mean, you know, it's almost like that thing of you get in sort of police procedurals and you know, murder things. You know, when the friend of the victim goes, the last thing I said to them was unkind. And I was thinking, Gorboduc, you know, he's going to be grieving for this quite severely, because you know he didn't say nice things to his son.
No.
The last time they met.
No.
You know, it's another sort of set piece speech, isn't it? It does seem to be much more so than we had in the first half or the first 2/3 of the play. You know, we've had two big set pieces from the mother and from the lady in waiting, or lady of the Queen's privy chamber, Marcella. So you know that's a big old speech as well, and they sort of bookend the act.
Yeah,
we open with the intent and then we end with the execution. Do we actually hear what happens to the mother?
No,
not in there.
No,
not in this bit.
No.
I was just going to say, there's no sort of murder-suicide.
No. Just in there, that's just basically a reportage of what she did to her son.
Yeah. But then she can't be pursued by Furies if she's dead, can she? I suppose she has to be filled with grief herself.
Yeah.
And obviously the lightning bolts.
Yeah. Well, you know, you've got to have the lightning bolts. It's a heavy old act, isn't it? I mean, it really is. You know, we've got the intention of murder. Then we got Porrex sort of trying to talk himself out of being killed by his own father.
Yeah.
So again, the audience. Sorry, go, Rob.
So then, when mother does the deed, but which we all knew she was going to anyway.
Yeah, so it's almost like, again, it's this action that is, we know is going to be fruitless.
Yeah.
And that's interesting as something to do with drama. Of presenting these situations we know will not come about. He's surrounded by enemies, and we know it's going wrong. Thoughts about where we are so far, because we are now winding down to the end of this session. We're well ahead. We're well ahead. Before we go into the final chorus, thoughts about the act?
I thought the where Marcella apostrophizes to how it was possible for the Queen not to be moved, just to let the weapon go and shower her son with kisses even after she stabbed him. She's basically saying there's no regret. How can a mother have no pity, no regret to take the death of her son? It's tough. She can't understand. Obviously, she can't understand it, and neither could I. But there we go.
But the death of Porrex the death of one son by another, it must be just tipped her over the edge.
I'm saying the way that Marcella's saying it.
She's seeing it.
Marcella that doesn't understand.
Yeah.
No.
It's Marcella that doesn't understand it.
Yeah, but does she know all of the facts?
I think even if she
would
did.
have thought so, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought so, but
I can't say for definite, but I would have thought so.
Yeah, I the way it seems to me is, it's the common man, or in this case, woman, who's witnessed this event, and just going, I don't get it, I don't understand, I've no idea why is this happening, and I think that's the natural response, really, isn't it? Seems a very reasonable response.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's.
Well, we all went very quiet there.
Well, we did. Well, why wouldn't we? It's it's escalating as well. I mean, this is the thing. Act 1, we got the setup, split the kingdoms. Act 2, the enmity that builds. And I think there is a route in for actors with that enmity between brothers. Because it's about property, and people can be very weird when it comes to inheritance and money and things. Even the Archers dealt with it, as I recall. It can create these monsters. You've got a favourite child, which was Gorboduc's favourite. Was his favourite the younger? You get that impression hinted at earlier in the play. So there's that psychodrama going on underneath the surface as well. And it's these sort of snapshots of moments, rather than the complete narrative. And I find that really interesting. Okay, who drew the long straw to do the final chorus?
Not me.
I think it was me.
Greg, I think.
Greg.
Yes, it was,
Yeah.
I thought it was. Sorry
Okay.
for earlier.
Right.
That's all right.
When greedy lust in royal seat to reign have reft all care of gods and eke of men, and cruel heart, wrath, treason, and disdain within the ambitious breast are lodged, then behold how mischief wide herself displays, and with the brother's hand the brother slays. When blood thus shed doth stain this heaven's face, crying to Jove for vengeance of the deed. The mighty God even moved it from his place with wrath to wreak. Then sends he forth with speed the dreadful Furies, daughters of the night, with serpents girt, carrying the whip of ire, with hair of stinging snakes and shining bright, with flames and blood, with a brand of fire. These for revenge of wretched murder done do make the mother kill her only son. Blood asketh blood, and death must death require. Jove by his just and everlasting doom justly have ever so required it. These times before record and times to come shall find it true, and so doth present proof. Present before our eyes for our behoof. O happy wight that suffers not the snare of murderous mind to tangle him in blood. And happy he that can in time beware by others' harms and turns it to his good. But woe to him that fearing not to offend, doth serve his lust, and will not see the end.
Lust does keep coming up. We
Quite a
mentioned,
bit.
yeah, in the chorus. I think that's the third time. We don't always get all the vices, but lust seems to be the word used. I don't think it means literal lust. I think it's lust for power and
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it does keep popping up, and it. I mean, there's.
It's more desire, isn't it?
It's that political theatre of the call of power, and what's going on within this court that leads to worse and worse and worse and worse things to happen.
I really like that speech. I thought it was a really powerful, small speech, and actually could have been put in the name, not in the characters that have died, but could have been put in any of the councillors' mouths, but actually works beautifully on its own.
I actually quite like the idea that the dead people say it.
Well, yeah, there you go.
I really quite like that as the bodies mount. We were having this discussion with some of the other plays we've been doing of the dead just wandering around doing little tidy ups. Yeah, I mean it's that phrase, it's all the variations on the phrase, blood asketh blood, and death must death requite. I mean it's a really dangerous sentiment. Because there's no end to that once you start that cycle. It just keeps going. How do you break it? And I don't think this play is going to give us a solution.
And also the Furies being on stage in the dumb show, again mentioned back here from this chorus.
Yeah, the chorus seems to be the explanation for the dumb show each time. And that's an interesting thing because you're presented with something and then you get 20 minutes before you get it explained, and I find that fascinating, and I wonder how that works. It might not work, it might be really terrible idea, but I quite like it, and I really would like to test that out actually, or find out anyone out there who's done it can tell us how effective that is. Is it better to just leave the audience in the dark and let some interpretive dance occur, or is it better to really make the point? I almost said labour the point, but you're right. That's a really nicely drawn speech. The only part of this act where I felt it was over egging the pudding a bit was when Gorboduc opened his speech in the second scene of Act 4. But then that's sort of a character-y thing, perhaps. The straight should bathe this blade in blood of thee. It's a laboured line. That's a really laboured. There was another really laboured line somewhere else I saw.
There's a few in here.
No, I don't think there are. I think there's lines we're tripping over. I don't think there's some, but there are one or two where going that just doesn't quite flow.
It was hard saying it, let alone hearing it.
Yeah, and I did it in my head a few times, and before I said it, and I still tripped over it. So, but straight should bathe this blade in blood of thee. It's not quite hitting the notes. But yeah, no, I still keep seeing the potential in this. I mean, that's not to say that it's not quite an odd concoction. But there's so much meat to it. So again, continuing the question that we sort of keep asking, if you were given this script to produce, now that two of you have heard the first 4 acts and 2 of you have heard over 2 of the acts, thoughts about what you might do with this to stage it, and you can ignore my thoughts. I've got my thoughts. I've said them. What would you like? What would your production of Gorboduc perhaps be? You don't have to come up with answers, but if that's just my framing thought.
Can we leave that till the end, darling?
Yeah.
Well, we are at the end.
Yeah.
Oh, we finished?
For tonight, yes. Text-wise.
I see. Okay.
We're into
I'm
final
gonna read
thoughts. because the final act is tomorrow, and
Okay.
plus some other additional bits and bobs that I might throw at the people. The problem with this is it didn't quite evenly break into 2 sessions, so I thought I'd rather allow it to percolate a bit more than try and force the pace and end up being very tired. I really want to, when we hit 9 o'clock, go into extra time, final thoughts, and then close the session, because otherwise it's just too long a week.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you don't have any thoughts, that's fine. Especially coming in halfway through, and I've peppered you all with my thoughts, so I'm leading the witnesses a bit. Greg, any final thoughts as we enter extra time?
Nope.
Rob, have you any suggestions or questions?
My suggestion would be to hand it over to Mr. Crichton. He's pretty good at this sort of thing. Some young up and coming fellow I've heard about.
Ah, yes. Who's he?
No,
I hate looking over my shoulder.
I've heard good things.
Sascha, any final thoughts?
I don't have any thoughts as yet regarding to staging, as I want to see the final act tomorrow before formulating anything. But what a roller coaster, and I look forward very much to tomorrow.
Yes, it keeps throwing things at us, and it's just getting darker and darker, isn't it? It's just this impending fog of doom. And Mr. McCabe, any final thoughts?
Not at this present moment. No.
Yeah, excellent. Right. Well, we're now up to the end of Act 4 of the Tragedy of Gorboduc. Just when you think it can't get any worse, there's another act to go. I'm sure it can manage it. So join us next time to be thoroughly depressed by the ending of this tragedy, as we see what happens in Act 5. There's also possibly going to be a bonus text that we'll look at tomorrow, depending on how the time goes, and I'm going to be putting that together. Something short to fill in if we have time at the end of tomorrow we could be talking about this for hours, so who knows. But otherwise, thank you very much to all my readers, and thank you for watching, and good night. Bye.
Good night.
Bye. Good night.